Hello guys, I am back from another video and today we're talking about the deku was in Fate Grand Order. So in the last video Deku after Izuku's classmates, or specifically more like Izuku's students, finally found out that Izuku is actually more like a mage and a quirk user, well, after they also met Izuku's servants, they started arguing, including the teachers. So after they finally met Izuku's parents after they were revived, well, let's just say, the teachers were not really happy. So they wanted an explanation on what is this Holy Grail War, whatever this so-called servants or whatever, and how are they like summoning all of these mystical and historical figures and literary figures from like these portals or whatever. So, after a while, they started to agree that it's more like, they can work out a solution where Izuku is going to be a teacher, but more like a assistant teacher, and allow the servants to work as like, more assistant teachers, I guess. So after a while, well Izuku's servants have been working as like friends towards Izuku's students, while for Izuku's parents, after a while of talking with the teachers or Izuku's staff or UA staff or whatever you want to call it, they started agreeing. After a while of like talking about Izuku and the mage life, or how mages work in general, they started wondering, if they can become mages, but unfortunately, their quirks are basically just like magic or magecraft, but except weaker and they can't use magical circuits. So, after that, we go to Izuku's perspective, where Izuku was talking to, well, Merlin, and after doing that, Izuku met Castoria, or, well, Altoria, Caster, which is just the caster version of, Artoria. So after a while of talking, apparently Fujimaru, being the protagonist or the name of the protagonist of like Fate Grand Order, was executed during, the final singularity, which is the Babylonian singularity. After he was executed, with the help of, well, Mr. well, Emiya. Emiya Shiro to be more precise. Well, him and a girl by the name of Mash Kirillite, they basically destroyed the Mages Association so they can get their revenge. Then after that, she disappeared. So, yeah. So after that, his servants, unfortunately, because they can't go back to their mini Chaldea, they were forced to stay and sleep in the regular world, which was uncomfortable for Gilgamesh because he prefers to sleep on his own bed, which is completely comfortable. It's completely fit for a king like him. So yeah, that's basically what happened last time. So yeah, so let's talk about what happens next. And before we start the video, I want to all address something. Some of you guys are not subscribing to this channel, even though you're watching my videos. Please subscribe, because if we get to that subscriber goal, I'm going to do a live stream slash Q&A slash showing all of my old drawings, so you can feel or at least like talk to me, saying some like questions, or for another example, like recommending me like some what ifs to make. Like for example, like what if Deku was in Kill la Kill, and also has the ability to summon out servants, or for another example, what if Deku was in High School DxD and also was an animatronic, or possessed an animatronic or something like that. So yeah, so I want you all to subscribe to me so we can get to that subscriber goal, so we can do that live stream. So yeah, and also in the last video, I after seeing like the last video, like the last what if Deku was in FGO, not very Like, seriously, none of you guys didn't like watch it, and none of you liked it. So, yeah, if you want to go like it, then like it, please. And if you don't want to like it, then you can do whatever you want. I'm not forcing you, okay? You can do whatever you want. It's your choice, okay? Good. So, let's go back to the video. So, after a week, Izuku finally wakes up from his whole coma. His parents are right beside him, including his servants and two of his classmates. Being actually more like students are classmates. Being his two students, Bakugo Katsuki and Mrs. Kendo Itsuka. As when Izuku wakes up, Izuku sees his parents as Izuku says this. My mom, dad. As Izuku woke them up, as both of his parents hugged him, saying they were glad to see Izuku again. As when Izuku's servants actually wake up, they also hugged Izuku, and for Izuku's students, Bakugo Katsuki and Kendo, well, they hugged Izuku, seeing Izuku alive. So, after a while of talking with, well, his students, well, they understand how Izuku actually works. How Izuku wanted revenge. Even though Bakugo, well, after seeing Izuku for so long, like seeing Izuku's like true personality, she was like confused and kind of angry. So, after that, Izuku was also told that two of his superiors want to talk to him, specifically Principal Nezu and All Might. So, after Izuku got his prosthetic arm, Izuku starts walking to the principal's office and sees the principal, Principal Nezu, and one of Izuku's um well co-workers, specifically All Might. So, All Might said this. So, Izuku, your parents told us that you're a part of this Holy Grail War, right? As Izuku says this. Yeah, they're right. So, what you're gonna do to me? Like fire me or something? As one of them, being Principal Nezu, said this. No, we're not gonna fire you. I mean, you're one of our best teachers. All Might and maybe a bit of President Mike. As Izuku says this. Why, thank you. Anyway, then why did you call me here in the first place? As they say this. Well, after seeing you fight with your actual fighting style, like this almost monstrous fighting style, we wanted you to use your servants as almost like secondary teachers. Izuku says this. Really? Fine then. As they say this. Well, that was quick. As Izuku says this. I also have a condition. As Principal Nezu says this. Then what is it? As Izuku says this. Well, I want you to raise my pay. As Principal Nezu says this. Sure. Maybe like a few more yen. As he says this. Done. As Izuku says this. Why, thank you. So, guess I'll be leaving. As Principal Nezu says this. Wait, Izuku. Izuku says this. What is it, Nezu? As Nezu says this. Well, we want you to go to an agency because something has been happening. Apparently, some villains have been terrorizing the city of Shibuya. As Izuku says this. So, well, take care of it. As he says this. Yes. I want to help the heroes out. I already told them about your powers. Or should I say quirk. As Izuku says this. Sorry, but you don't really need to tell them that it's a quirk. You could say it's a power, I guess. Because after all, after it was broadcast like to the entire world, many people have been, let's just say, um confused, I guess. As Principal Nezu says this. Yeah, I agree. Especially if it's like something about the government. Apparently one of the government officials is actually a mage. They actually found that out during, well, the commotion. As Izuku says this. Huh. Anyway, guess I'll be leaving. See ya. As he says this. See ya. So, a few days have passed as it's the day where they're going to be having the internships. So, when Izuku arrives back, several people like looking at him. Like several students started looking at him, seeing him with his I meant, wait for a sec, his prosthetic arm. After they saw him, one student said this: "Hey, I challenge you to a battle. I saw your that whole freaking fight. Like seriously, you're like mad." As Izuku says this, "I'm currently busy, so maybe try and fight me very soon, I guess. Maybe after the trip." As he says this, "No, fight me now." As Izuku says this, seriously? Izuku snaps his fingers and tells, wait for a second, Enkidu to try and fight him. But Izuku specifies not to kill him, as he says this, "Very well, master." As he starts creating chains and basically bounded him up, causing him to lose. As he says this, "God dang it, that's technically cheating." As Izuku says this, "Well, it's not cheating if you didn't say it. See ya." Many of the students started laughing at that student's words. Because, well, nobody can easily beat him. After all, he can summon out mystical figures and historical figures, basically. So, when Izuku goes back to class and sees his students, some of his students see a brand new arm was weird. As Izuku says this, "Alright, so you're gonna be picking all of your hero names. So, please get ready." While Izuku was doing that, Izuku sees everybody's hero names, including Kendo's. Izuku gives her a thumbs up for the name because it was creative, as it's the time where they're gonna be picking, where they're gonna be going to, well, their internship, like well, going to like a agency, basically. So, Izuku was told that he's going to be going to a internship nearby Shibuya. Apparently, it's a pretty sketchy place right next to right next to that agency. Apparently, several villains or villain-like people have been talking. So, after that day, it's the next day where they're gonna be going to their internships. So, Izuku was going into an internship with a pretty, well, like a not really well-known hero. Let's just say his name is like Hellfire or something because, well, he has like a fire quirk or whatever. So, after a while of looking around, Izuku never found any evidence until it was like a few days after, where Izuku saw a big attack at, well, a nearby, well, let's just say, park. Apparently, the park was overrun with these skeletal-like creatures. Apparently, some people think it's probably a quirk, or a quirk that specializes in, like, necromancy. But Izuku knows better. Izuku knows that they're actually, what do you call them, like, dragon tooth warriors. You probably know those from, well, Fate Apocrypha, which most of the servants that I'm going to be naming off here, well, for the red faction, which is the League of Villains servants, well, they're mostly from Fate Apocrypha. Mostly because I loved Fate Apocrypha when I first saw it. Don't, like, it's one of my favorite, like, animes right now. and I'm mostly taking my inspiration from that because, well, there's gonna be two factions. One is the heroes faction, which is the black faction, and the other is going to be the red faction, which is the League of Villains faction. So yeah, it will someone act as like another Holy Grail war. So after Izuku saw that, Izuku also saw from the news that apparently one people said that they want to find the Holy Grail. Specifically, they said that they wanted to find the Greater Grail, which Izuku already knows what the Greater Grail is. Which, this is actually going to be like a different timeline, a little bit. Instead of like Izuku going into like the Fourth Holy Grail War, the Fourth Holy Grail War is going to be similar to, well, Fate Apocrypha's, well, concept, where there's like two factions, where Kiritsugu, instead of what's his name, Gordolf, Kiritsugu had like Siegfried as his servant instead of Gordolf. Thankfully, he was not as abusive as Gordolf. So after Izuku gets ready, Izuku starts going off that area, seeing several of these dragon-toothed warriors led by a certain girl. Izuku already knows her face and already knows her from all of the descriptions from the survivors of the massacre of the, well, the Mages Association. Her name was Mash Kiriolite, said to be a girl that was a demi or servant. Specifically, she was fused with a heroic spirit by the name of Galahad, one of the 12 knights of the Round Table. So, Izuku sees that she's using two different servants. One was Semiramis, said to be one of the, well, one of the servants from Fate Apocrypha, and those are one of the servants that I picked. But she also is commanding another servant, which, in comparison to the Semiramis, she towers over her, specifically in physical appearance. She's a gigantic monster, and apparently after Izuku heard her name was King Protea. You'll probably know her from Fate Extella or Fate Extra as a part of like the Sakura 5. Anyway, wait for a second. So, Mash Kiriolite commands both Semiramis to create more of these bone soldiers or dragon tooth soldiers, and for King Protea, she's using her as basically like, well, the firepower, basically like a super soldier. Izuku, while seeing this, Izuku calls upon his servants, being Ishtar. Izuku tells Ishtar to use her noble phantasm to shoot down King Protea. So, she goes up into the air and creates her noble phantasm, which I can't remember the name and I'm not bothered. I should do that. The name of the is called Anki Algase. At least I think it's the name of the noble phantasm. I just searched it up on like Google. So, after she shooted out the noble phantasm, she basically broke apart a part of, well, King Protea's body, but she starts regenerating, saying, "Master, it seems that an intruder has come here." As Mash says this, I can definitely smell somebody. Ah, found him. As she says this to Semiramis, "Call upon all of your your stupid soldiers, your dragon tooth soldiers. Now, get that man." So, after Izuku was captured, well, Mash said this. Wait, is that you, senpai? As Izuku says this. Wait, what? Wait for a second. As Izuku said this. Wait, what? Um, I'm sorry, but what? I'm what? As she said this. Senpai, it's me. Don't you remember? Wait a second. As Izuku said this. I'm sorry, but I'm not your senpai, and second of all, I'm not Ritsuka Fujimaru. As she said this. No. They must have wiped your memories. It's me. It's me. As Izuku said this. You're crazy. As she said this. No. It's me. It's me. It's me, Mash. I'm your Kohai. Do you remember? As Izuku says this. Guess I have to summon him then. Come forth, Gilgamesh. As Gilgamesh says this. Alright, you mongrel. You dare try to touch Master. Well then, you can die. As he summons out the gate of Babylon, summoning out several of these noble phantasms, or at least the prototypes, which are basically stronger versions of um different types of noble phantasms, where he basically starts shooting them at rapid speeds. After he does that, he says this. Dang. She's really seriously, she's really fast. How's he? As when he over exaggerates, he gets stabbed by Semiramis right in the chest. As he says this. What is this? You mongrel. As he starts spitting out blood. As he says this. Is this poison? As Semiramis said this. This is special poison. I meant poison. Which can basically kill a god. Because you're a half god. You can easily be killed by this. As he starts spitting out more and more blood. As Izuku says this. Alright, you can go back. As he says this. Ugh, I will get you, you mongrels! As Izuku says this. Guess it's my turn then. Izuku starts transforming into his demi-servant form, wielding his sword. As when Izuku gets ready to strike, well, there was no clanging sound. As Izuku sees in front of him two other people. One of them was... he was wearing some sort of attire similar to Edmond Dantes, and the other was an evil version of Alteria from Izuku, basically the alter version of Alteria. As she says this, so I'm guessing you're the master of the Black faction, I believe. As Izuku says this, wait a minute. I thought the Holy Grail War was finished. As Edmund says this. You really think that this Holy Grail War is finished? We want to get the Greater Grail no matter what. And when we get that, we can fulfill our dreams. And you're just standing in our way. You pathetic little boy. Now, take this. Oder Shadow Thief! As he starts creating clones, as these clones shoot out beams of dark energy, Izuku dodges them thankfully, but Izuku gets kicked right in the back. Izuku sees that it's some sort of man, having completely dark skin and white hair, wielding two guns with bayonets. As he says this, right over one. Target on sight. Now, the bone of my blade. Now, as I pray, unlimited lost works. Izuku already knows this noble phantasm, so Izuku lets his prosthetic arm dodge it, or specifically let it take the damage. As when it collided with the bullet, swords appeared and basically destroyed his prosthetic arm. Izuku decides to run away. But unfortunately, another servant appeared in front of him, and that servant was Vlad, the Berserker class servant, the Berserker version, as he says this. So, you have another version of me, a version of me which I absolutely hated. Well then, when I kill you, I will destroy this other self. Now, die! Izuku is about to get slashed in half, but thankfully, the other Vlad helped him, as the other Vlad said this. So, you're another imposter. Well then, you dare to pretend to be me. Pretending to be the one and only Vlad. As he says this. Yes, I am not the imposter. You are. You're just a stupid phantom servant. As he says this. You're right. I am. And if you're wondering why is he called a phantom servant, is because with another servant, specifically the phantom servant known as Dracula. Yeah, that is why he's blood covered. Like, he's completely covered in blood in the game. Even though this is actually just an idea that I got in my head. So, after he does that, he transforms into his true form, into a large vampire. His face turns into a bat. He gains bat-like wings as he says this. Now, activating Noble Phantasm, Legend of Dracula! As he transforms into several bats, making a escape route for Izuku. Thankfully, Izuku escaped unharmed, well, his broken prosthetic arm. After the other, which is Izuku's Vlad, after he deflected all of the attacks by the other Vlad led by Dobby, and yes, Dobby is now the master of, like, Vlad Berserker, he says this. Damn, this other version of me, how is he that powerful? As Izuku says this, well, because he's a Berserker class servant, unlike you, which is a Lancer. As he says this, damn it! When I find him, I'm gonna tear him to pieces! As Izuku says this, you're right, but I would rather if you just not die. As he says this, fine then, master. Izuku says this, we should go and report this. So, Izuku starts going back to UA High, or UA University, like UA University now, because, well, in this version, it's a university instead of a high school. Izuku reported what happened in the internship, and Principal Nezu said this. So, the League of Villains have servants now. How are we going to deal with this? Like, seriously. As Izuku says this, I have an idea. But, unfortunately, we need catalysts. As Nezu says this, catalysts. As he explains, catalysts or catalysi or whatever you want to call them are basically a piece of clothing or basically anything representative or a part of the stories of like mystical figures, like for example Altera or Emiya Archer, or for another example Ushi Wakamaru, or for another example Isibron or Evisibron. As after Izuku explained that, Nezu called upon the nearby museums. I meant museums. So, after getting all of these, catalysts, Izuku plans to give servants for specific 7 people. Or should I say 7 students. So, we shall end at this part because, I can't wait for all of you to see this part after, the video uploads. So, yeah. So, I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe. And please subscribe to me so we can get to that subscriber goal. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!